From the very first episode, it was crystal clear that The Acolyte was one of the biggest failures in the history of Disney Star Wars. And as more and more episodes came out, it only cemented that belief in the eyes of the vast majority of the fandom. And now finally, a month after the finale aired on Disney Plus, we get the news that should be expected. The Acolyte has officially been canceled. No season 2 for Leslie Headland and crew. This show is over. And of course, in the immediate aftermath of this breaking news that came from Deadline, that's who first broke this story, a lot of fans certainly reacted. And the vast majority of people out there said, yeah, of course, they should cancel it. It wouldn't make any sense to make a season 2, considering no one actually watched this thing. We talked about this yesterday, and we've talked about it for weeks, honestly. When you look at the ratings, despite the fact that Disney tried to gaslight people into believing it was a success with those first day numbers, and then when we saw the comparison numbers, we realized, oh no, it's actually not a success. This is very, very bad news for them, and it only continued to get worse as interest fell off throughout the course of 8 episodes. And then ultimately we found out that the finale had the lowest viewership of any Disney Star Wars show in history by a large margin. Less than half of the viewership from the finale of Andor, and about 40% less than the viewership for the finale of Ahsoka. This is not a show that should have been greenlit. And yes, you know what? I understand. There's a couple hundred people out there that are diehard Acolyte fans. They love this show. They wanted so desperately to see a second season, but that is not the majority. The majority of people despise this show, but we're now seeing them go full cope mode, and of course blaming toxic fans for the reason that this show got canceled. I wanted to go through a handful of them that I thought were funny enough to bookmark. You've got here, Amy the Phillies fan. I'm really tired of sharing the franchise I love with toxic, misogynistic, immature racist, and constantly seeing them catered to, even though the rest of us have been here all along wanting new and fresh stories that connect deeply with all of us. The irony of this statement is that this show was specifically catering to this small fringe group in the Star Wars fandom that is not as big as they think it is, that is incredibly small, and this show just proved it. The Acolyte was catered to pronoun in bio crowd, to people with, stan accounts and trans flags, Palestine flags in their bios. Like these people, that's who this show was catered to. From the showrunner to the group of writers they surrounded themselves with, even to the casting. This is what it was all about. They told you from the beginning. Story was on the back burner. It was all about diversity and representation and things like this. You got the show you wanted. They catered to you. And it was the biggest failure they've ever seen. What does that tell you? Maybe you are in the minority. Maybe all the people that you label as misogynistic, racist, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're the ones that actually just want Star Wars content from a story perspective that makes sense, that honors the world, and doesn't damage the brand further. Maybe you are actually in the minority, because you truly are. The Acolyte being canceled is only going to fuel the most annoying people in the fandom who led the full-on hate train without even watching it because they don't know how to think for themselves. Disney needs to stop catering to these losers. The losers they need to stop catering to are you. Just like Kathleen Kennedy said like a decade ago, right? We don't need the old male fan base anymore. We need a new, fresh audience. You are the audience they're catering to. And what happened in the movie, in the show that they spent $180 million on to cater to you? One, virtually everyone that watched it hated it, and it had almost no interest. What are you talking about? Who else are they supposed to cater to? This is not financially sustainable. They catered to you, and no one came out and watched it because you are the fringe, insignificant part of the fandom. Star Wars continues to fold under the pressure, the worst, smallest, loudest part of the fan base. How ironic is this? How can you not see? You are that group, the smallest, loudest, worst part of the fan base, because a show got made specifically for you, and despite all of your tweeting, despite all their hashtag renew the Acolyte tweets, it didn't get renewed because nobody fucking tuned in to watch it. This is so wildly disappointing. Such a shameful move on Disney's part to abandon great stories and storytellers because of trolls. The Acolyte deserves better. The Acolyte deserves exactly what it fucking got. Canceling The Acolyte is one of the worst decisions ever. It was a series that was finally pushing Star Wars into a new, fresh direction and was set up for an even better second season, but a bunch of babies couldn't handle that, and now we'll be stuck with more of the same forever, says Jack. Oh, I'm sorry, Jack, that no one watched your dog shit. Disney really said fuck you to so many queer, POC, and non-traditional Star Wars fans, all because this show got review bombed to hell and back before it even came out. You know, there was a lot of negative coverage, myself included, of The Acolyte before it came out because of what the cast and crew members were saying, because you could tell the writing was on the wall that they did not go into this with the idea of honoring Star Wars and telling a great story at the forefront. They came in with identity politics in mind. Like I said before, from Leslie Headland being hired as the showrunner with her idea that she wanted to push, to all of the ideology that got crammed into that writer's room. They hired people that didn't even know what Star Wars was simply because they were the right gender, the right color, and the right sexuality. This is what they wanted to do, and it failed for them. Bottom line. I even saw Molly Damon out here, half of Star Wars Explained, very famously. Totally agree with Jennifer Land about the way the Acolyte news is being handled. People are very mad that the news is that the Acolyte is canceled instead of like Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan or whatever, because we just never got any answers to that. And there's still people clamoring for an Obi-Wan season 2, which there absolutely should not be. They're mad that this got the headline that it was canceled. Some fans thought there'd be a season 2 of Kenobi, but when that didn't happen, it was never reported in the trades as being canceled. My point is, by using the term canceled, it emboldens a certain portion of the fan base to purposely review bombed and did everything they could to trash the series simply because it had predominantly POC cast. It was created by Leslie Headland, who's an openly gay woman. Deadline knows this. It's so funny you keep going back to this. I will always go back to House of the Dragon. Now, certainly a lot of people didn't necessarily like the finale of season 2. But when I saw the way House of the Dragon was being talked about in the lead up to season 1, I really thought it was going to be a nightmare and a disaster. I was very open about that. And then the first episode came out, and I was like, I actually really like this. And after episode 2, I was like, listen, I was wrong. I thought this was going to be a nightmare, but I really enjoy what they're doing. That has a very diverse cast led by women. There's gay characters in it and all these different things. Yet when I saw that, even though I thought something was going to be bad, it actually turned out to be good, I had to say, no, this is actually good. The difference with The Acolyte is that it sucked, that it wasn't good. And we are going to continue to see these meltdowns continue. There's no doubt, because ironically, while they're claiming that the smallest, loudest part of the fan base, they got what they wanted, you are the smallest, loudest part of the fan base. For the most part, full of very young people who's super active on social media, maybe don't even have a job, maybe you're still living with their parents, maybe their parents are still paying their Disney Plus accounts, and you're all about identity politics. This show proves that despite what you continue to push, despite these delusions of grandeur you have in your head, the vast majority of Star Wars fans do not want this. They didn't tune in, and the ones that did give it a chance fucking hated it. So, sorry that your show got canceled, and I understand some of you may have genuinely enjoyed it. And you know what? That sucks for you. But for the overall Star Wars fan base, this is a good thing. There is no way in hell that this show should ever have gotten a season 2. It doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint. It had the lowest viewership of all the shows in history, and as it went on, it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. This show is a pathetic failure, and right now, the freaks and weirdos, they cannot handle it. Disaster for Lucasfilm, but at least they did the right thing and canceled the show. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.